The outdoors are a great passion for the people of Oregon, and it is truly a good day for Oregonians. The Omnibus Public Land Management Act contains protection for a number of our special places, our treasures, and in the case of Mount Hood, an Oregon icon that is revered by our people. I serve as chairman of the Subcommittee on Public Lands and Forests. I know how important these public lands bills are. The fact of the matter is they are of special benefit from a moral perspective. What we are doing is guaranteeing that these beautiful lands can be passed on to future generations, but they also help fuel our economic engine. The reality is protection for the great outdoors boosts our effort to promote recreation, which is increasingly a major source of employment. I want to take just a few minutes to discuss the 7 pieces of legislation that I was heavily involved in. Many other Oregonians were as well, countless Oregonians. And I also want to give special thanks to Senator Gordon Smith, who contributed mightily to this effort, working with me on this legislation and this package for many years. The legislation that was passed includes the Lewis and Clark Mount Hood Wilderness Act of 2007, the Copper Salmon Wilderness Act, the Cascade Siskiyou National Monument Voluntary and Equitable Grazing Conflict Resolution Act, the Oregon Badlands Wilderness Act of 2008, and the Spring Basin Wilderness Act of 2008. The Lewis and Clark Mount Hood Wilderness Act has been the product of years and years of work to protect a cherished state treasure. More people take pictures of Mount Hood than any other landmark in our state. And that's saying something, because Oregon has a lot of breathtaking nature to photograph. Mount Hood isn't just a symbol of our state, it's a monument to the deep connection our people have to their land. This bill is a triumph of environmental protection that wouldn't have been possible without an effort to build a statewide consensus, bringing together thousands of constituents, community groups, and elected officials who just said, we are going to keep fighting for this until Mount Hood gets this added measure of protection. Our legislation builds on the existing Mount Hood wilderness, adds more wild and scenic rivers, and creates a recreation area to allow diverse opportunities for recreation. We protect under the bill the lower elevation forests surrounding Mount Hood and our special Columbia River Gorge. The protected areas include scenic vistas, almost 127,000 acres of wilderness, and in tribute to the great river-dependent journey of Lewis and Clark, the addition of 79 miles on 9 free-flowing stretches of river to the National Wild and Scenic River System. I have a picture, Madam President, that illustrates why Oregonians feel so strongly about wilderness and Mount Hood. Richard L. Constam, long revered as the crusader who restored the jewel that is Timberline Lodge, is shown here skiing under Illumination Rock. My friend Dick Constam treasured the wilderness of Mount Hood and had the vision of bringing national prominence to alpine sports on the mountain. Under Dick's guidance, Timberline Lodge was the first ski area in our country to become a National Historic Landmark and to have the nation's first year-round skiing. We are honored today to name this picture the Richard L. Constam Memorial Area. It is a fitting legacy to an Oregonian who is remarkably foresighted. In public meetings in our state and letters and phone calls, we heard from over 100 community groups and local governments, from members of our congressional delegation, the governor, and the Bush administration. To say that this has been a labor of love for many would be a gross understatement. 2 other bills in this legislation will protect two unique places on the east side of the Cascades in our state. The Oregon Badlands Wilderness Act of 2008 would designate as wilderness almost 30,000 acres of the area just east of Bend known as the Badlands. The legislation will not only magnify the area's magnificent natural attributes, it will cement our region's well-earned reputation as a hub for a wide diversity of outdoor recreation sports. I can tell you that in this economy, that is a prospect that many Central Oregon business leaders and citizens enthusiastically support. In Central Oregon, people can enjoy almost any kind of outdoor activity: boating and biking and skiing and horseback riding and hunting and riding off-road vehicles and a variety of sports. Environmental protection doesn't have to come at the expense of economic growth. And this legislation is a textbook case of proving just that theory. It preserves the unique landscapes that bring visitors to the Badlands and will add to the growing value of Bend's brand as being one of the best places in the country to enjoy outdoor recreation, live, work, and raise a family. The Spring Basin Wilderness Act of 2008 would designate approximately 8,600 acres as the Spring Basin Wilderness, overlooking the John Day Wild and Scenic River. The rolling hills of Spring Basin are famous for their burst of color during the spring wildflower boom. It boasts canyons and diverse geology that draws for hikers, horseback riders, hunters, and other outdoor enthusiasts. Also among the bills in this comprehensive legislation is the Copper Salmon Wilderness Act. My bill on this issue protects the headwaters of the North Fork of the Elk River. It's a gem known as the Copper Salmon Area and adds 13,700 acres of new wilderness and designates 9.3 miles of wild and scenic rivers. Copper salmon is one of those places that crystallizes Oregon's reputation as an outdoor paradise. This bill gives crucial protection to the area's wildlife and to the prized salmon and steelhead that attracts anglers from across the world. During the last decade, a dedicated group of local conservationists, fishermen, and community leaders have worked passionately to protect this area. It is one of the last intact watersheds on the southwest Oregon coast. It is a very special treasure. Fishermen and hunters are going to come to the Copper Salmon area for generations to come, and I am thrilled that it has been protected. Finally, Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to join former Senator Smith on the legislation to establish a 23,000-acre Soda Mountain wilderness in the Cascade Siskiyou National Monument Voluntary and Equitable Grazing Conflict Resolution Act. The protections here help ensure that what we call the Noah's Ark of botanical diversity remains undisturbed and healthy. There's been bipartisan leadership and dedicated work from people within the community, and what folks in Southern Oregon have shown is that it is possible to come up with a homegrown solution that serves the public interest. This legislation is a prime example of ranchers and environmentalists sitting down together to work out conflicts in a consensus-oriented kind of fashion. They didn't look to some kind of Washington approach, a one-size-fits-all approach. They said, as ranchers and conservationists, we are going to address this issue of grazing allotments in a thoughtful way. The bill enables conservation organizations to raise additional money that they can use to compensate ranchers who voluntarily retire their federal grazing leases. It also designates a significant amount of new wilderness within the monument. Madam President, each one of these bills came about because Oregonians said that on the issue that we care so much about, the outdoors and protecting our treasures, we're going to come to the table from every walk of life, urban and rural, environmentalist and rancher, and we are going to come together to say that as a state, it is extraordinarily important that we protect our treasures for future generations, and we can do it in a way that will also boost our economic engine at a time when so many Oregonians are hurting and having difficulty paying the bills for the essentials. I was very proud to have been the lead sponsor of these 7 pieces of legislation, but the fact of the matter is that the real credit goes to thousands and thousands of Oregonians who pitched in from every corner of the state for years and years, working with myself, with Congressman Wyden and Congressman Blumenauer, and colleagues from the other body, and of course, Senator Smith's contribution I recognize this afternoon. And today, Oregonians have something to enjoy and to particularly reflect on the fact that so many future generations or our citizens will be able to enjoy in the years ahead.